How are you 30s different than your 20s? Story 1. I finally know who I am and am not nearly as vulnerable to outside opinion. Also a little bit of reckoning with time, as my 20s were entirely figure it out later, but lo and behold, later has arrived and is staring me in the face. Truly put up or shut up time. Story 2. Everything takes a little bit longer to recover from. It takes a bit more work to regulate oneself. You need to make sure you're sleeping, exercising, eating right, and cutting down on drugs. You feel more in control and responsible. You don't waste time on nonsense like you used to. You can plan better. You probably have more money. That's about it. Story 3. When you are a teenager, you beginning to understand how the world works, but you don't really know why it works that way. In your 20s, you begin to understand why things are the way they are, but you still don't really feel like you are a part of it yet. I don't feel like an adult, LOL. In my 30s, I feel very much like a grown-ass adult. I have a whole heap of responsibilities, a little more money, and increasingly, I just want most people to fuck off and leave me alone. I expect my 40s will be more of the latter. Story 4. Turning 39 today. It's the last year of my 30s. In this decade, I got married, had a son, moved to Europe, and have grown my investment portfolio to a level that I didn't think possible in my 20s. Yes, it's largely due to my focus being boiled down to the people I love who love me back and achieving my goals. It may not be as wild as it used to be. I used to be way more happy-go-lucky and all that, faded with all the responsibilities, but I'm content. Maturity has many benefits, and I'm not fully there yet, but I'm far further along than I was when I was younger. Story 5. Your friends start crapping out, having kids, moving away, getting serious jobs that keep them from coming out, becoming homebodies. It gets boring. I'm more confident now, responses are just admitting a deficit. I wasn't insecure then. I'm not now. Story 6. Things you want to stop doing before 30, because if you do them after 30, you will be judged as some loser who never grew up and continues to be a fuckwit, pretending your band will take off. Dressing as rock stars, rappers, fast fashion, wearing lots of piercings, ball caps in mature settings. Not having a career or savings. Tricking out your badass car that the bank owns, cruising around for attention and living with parents or rat hole. Showing up to your friends' gatherings forever single, half drunk, trying to get couples with children to relive the glory days of an early 20s party. Taking extreme risks for the thrill without considering the consequences. Monetary loss, injuries that could forever impact your life and happiness. Constantly quitting entry-level jobs because you think you're better than your equals, even though you don't qualify for anything better, and had you stayed on, could have been promoted long ago multiple times, but instead you are 30 and still entry-level. Regardless of what people will say, you will be infantilized if you keep it up. We live in a society that judges people. You will be judged regardless of if some goody-goody on Reddit tells you not to listen to haters and do your own thing. Sure, do it, but you have to accept you will definitely be criticized or the topic of gossip at all friend and family gatherings. Story 7. Genuine problems. In your 20s, you think you have problems, but in your 30s, they actually start to take hold and make the shit in your 20s look cute. It's no longer the small problems of trying to noodle out the relative basics of adulthood, independence, the he said, she said of social relationships, finding a career you enjoy, etc. In your 30s, you start to handle far greater issues. Well, the furnace broke in the winter. Now I need to figure out how to keep the pipes from bursting while finding a contractor who services XYZ space. I need to balance that alongside the speed and cost of the replacement if it can't be fixed. Someone will need to be around to let the contractors in, so I'll need to coordinate with work, and if I'm short on money, make up that time. Will I be able to afford any of this? Will I need a loan? Probably only gets worse, honestly, as our health starts to go too, since, as others mentioned, creaks, aches, and pains start to set in. But those are nothing that are experienced later. I can't even imagine when, stretching, getting out of bed, I tore a tendon which took 2 years to heal. It's not all bad though. You learn more and more about who you are or want to be, and do it. You become less concerned if friends fall through the gaps as you live your life according to your own values, and meet others who share them. Story 8. I once heard someone describe it with, it's the same thing as your 20s, but you have a debuff. Debuff is used in games to denote a decrease in abilities or attributes. Converted to real life, maybe your back is aching, hangovers are much worse, can't maintain good sleep, whatever it is, you have that now. I was 29 when I was diagnosed with chronic pancreatitis and diabetes caused by said pancreatitis. I suppose that's my debuff. Story 1030s is when the big shift in gears occurs. 20s all about going out, doing stuff, meeting people, going on adventures, figuring out what you want to do with your life. 30s is when ideally, You have figured much of that. What do you want to do? Not all of us. Instead of running around crazy, you move with a purpose and with a general idea of where you want to be and go. Instead of going out to a club where you know no one, you want to go instead to hang out with the key friends and loved ones you have assembled. Instead of dating 4,000 people, you feel that desire to settle down and find real love. Instead of being fine living off of ramen noodles and living with 3 other roommates to split the rent in a crap-hole apartment, you want to get your own place and make it nice. It's easy to say things slow down, but that's really not true at all. It's a shifting of gears because the reality is you are still hustling to get all those things. It's just you are wasting less time and effort on the wastes of time, and you know better what you need to be doing and not be doing. Story 11. My 20s were great. Good money, tons of traveling, lots of friends, lots of dating, lots of late nights, running half marathons every few months. My 30s are even better. Good money, just going to different categories of spending. Almost no traveling. Fewer friends but closer ones. Happily married, raising kids, 9:30 bedtime. Switched to weightlifting because knees and because watching your parents get old is awful and makes me want to keep my body strong. Basically, I finally accepted that I'm an introvert and found a best friend who was happy to stay home watching YouTube essays with me every night. Story 12. The good, a lot less self-conscious. You realize you don't have to impress everyone and can focus your attention on being your genuine self. The mixed. I found the time and distance from childhood has helped me unpack a lot of stuff that happened when I was a kid, teen. It's both healing and also painful to work through. The bad back pain, lol. Story 13. Everyone goes through life differently, but the second half of my 20s were the roughest for me in terms of anxiety. Maybe this is when I was really transitioning into being an adult, and getting out of college was like a big dose of, oh shit, what now? I'm 33 now and so much happier. Like others have said, you know what you do and don't like and don't feel pressured to go with the crowd as much anymore. Your social circle gets smaller. Life hopefully gets smaller too, but in a good way, less complicated. And you start to focus on only the things that really matter to you. It's nice. Get off social media and simplify your life. Story 14. Time. If you get kids, you have way less personal time to do things. Not a bad thing, as you have way less alone time to feel alone. Money. You have more money and you spend more money. Body. You finally realize you better get your shit together with health. Mindset. You care about what other people less. Start realizing you should spend your time doing things that either serve your family, make money, or it's something you want to do. Anything else, and there better be a damn good reason. Story 15. So much more liberating. You're more direct and focused on what you need and want, which brings less shame and a fuller life. I found that in my 20s, I was trying to live for others and be the perfect wife, daughter, sister, or friend. I've since realized that I can do whatever I need and want, provided I'm not an a-hole to anyone in the process, and those who truly love me will stick around. I don't need to earn my keep. Story 16. You really need to start watching what you eat. I can feel what I eat almost immediately in my mood, energy, and outcome of my day. Up until literally the age of 32, I thought I was always going to be a eat whatever I want guy. I was wrong, but it's such a cool sensation to eat a salad or fruit and feel energized. Story 17. I just turned 30 this year, but so far I am less anxious and my life feels less chaotic. I seem to be able to make better, less impulsive decisions. My insulin resistance, however, is worse than ever. If I miss just one dose of medication, then I can't lose weight for that entire week and will likely gain a couple pounds, so I have to be really aware of that. My ADHD is worse, I'm way more forgetful, but I'm actually diagnosed now, so the medication helps a lot when I remember to take it. I've lost my desire to do things like ride roller coasters. I honestly wish I had done that more in my 20 ES, but I didn't know that I'd lose the desire. I definitely feel like I want to do everything I can to preserve my life. I used to care less if I lived or died. But now I see my potential and I don't want to waste it doing stupid things for the thrill. I don't like horror games or hard games anymore. I used to be an avid Dark Souls player, but I just don't have the patience for it anymore. I tried to play the remake of Dead Space recently, and I found out that I don't really have the desire for stress and adrenaline like I used to. My shoulder and neck hurt bad if I don't do my exercises at least every other day, and I can't sit for long periods of time anymore without my back hurting. It's good though, because it encourages me to be active since I have a desk job now. Story 18. I lost myself in my dreams, got hit by life and not going back to dreaming. I do have a job, an apartment, and bit of social life. Giving up my dreams and taking it as it comes. My 20-year-old would hate me today. Tip for all young people. Please keep your dreams alive and don't throw them away. Yeah, it will be hard. You will fail, but in the end, you will win. Story 19. 3 months after turning 30, I tore a deltoid due to a bone spur resulting in shoulder surgery. I had a golf ball-sized mass cut off the side of my chest, later followed by a 6x4 diamond also being removed for good measure. I'm falling apart literally mentally and physically. Story 20. Far less tolerant of loud, obnoxious attention seekers. If I don't know who's going to be at an outing I'm attending, I'd rather stay home to avoid the annoyance of someone I can't stand. I also have learned to advocate for myself more. Still not perfect, but getting better. I was a pushover in my 20s, and it got old after a while. Story 21. I have less anxiety. I don't have many friends. I go to bed earlier. I wake up earlier. I prioritize my health. I'm sober. I'm no longer in a constant state of crisis. I no longer enjoy loud bars. I don't care as much about how people perceive me. Socializing is more exhausting. And random things hurt now that didn't used to hurt, like riding a bike, doing a cartwheel. Running and playing sports all make me sore the next day. Story 22. I have more disposable income, I'm in an amazing and steady relationship, and I'm better at some of my hobbies, but have too many to engage with constantly. The downsides are that I have to dedicate exercise and stretching time versus just being able to get up off the couch and hike for 10+ miles. I also use trekking poles now, which I thought were lame in my 20s. I drink exponentially less alcohol too, as my hangovers are brutal, and I just don't enjoy losing an entire day because I got shit-faced at a bar and said stupid stuff. Oh, and if I do cross the 10-mile mark on a day hike, I better have stretched prior, because if I didn't, my knees would be barking at me. Edit. I'm adding in that watching your parents age is fucking brutal. I'm coming to terms with the fact that eventually they're going to pass, and it's going to destroy me emotionally for a while. Enjoy them while you have them, and cherish the memories you create with them. Story 23. You have a lot more money than you did in your 20s, and what was a struggle in your 20s is not a big deal in your 30s. You are generally more settled as well, whether it's career, significant other, or your house. With more money and success, you also realize what most other people think of you doesn't matter and can't actually affect your life. It's actually one of the best realizations you can have in life. The IDK F what you think, because I am happy and content enough with myself. You also become more selective with friends. I realized your group gets smaller and you start valuing quality over quantity of friends. Your priorities eventually also shift over your 30s, especially if you end up having kids. You realize your child can give you joy in a way social media validation just cannot. Finally, there is the watching your parents get old. In my 20s, both my parents and my now in-laws were like a rock. They were confident, knew exactly what they were doing, at least seemed like it, and just had their shit together even when they didn't. Then you start noticing and watching them get old, get less confident, start doing stupider and more irresponsible. And one day you wake up and realize that the relationship dynamic has completely flipped, and now you are the responsible adult, and they are the ones depending on you. I think this was the hardest shift to witness for me from my 30s that I just didn't expect or appreciate in my 20s. Story 24. I feel and look basically the same as I did in my 20s. The one thing I really noticed, though, is how much faster your 30s go by. 22, 30 felt like a lifetime in and of itself. Then I turned 30 and it feels like I blinked, and now I'm 37. If you're in your 20s, do your best to present in the moment and really enjoy the time. Story 25. I have everything I need and most of what I want. I have a good job. I pay more in taxes than I used to gross. I'm raising a wonderful family. I really don't care what people think about me. I generally feel 25 years old. I like going to bed at 8:30 or 9 p.m. My stresses have changed from stuff like, how do I make next month's rent, to, did I put enough in the retirement and education funds this month? I gain weight faster and lose it slower. It takes longer to heal. I'm going bald. I go to bed at 8:30 or 9 p.m. Story 26. My 20s were pure chaos. Drinking, partying, everything that comes with partying. In my late 20s, I was fiercely depressed, wanted to die, and had no direction. As soon as I hit my 30s, it's like a switch went off. I quit drinking completely. Haven't touched a drop in 7 years now. I'm extremely happily married, have a job I love, and am excited for the future. It's like 2 different lifetimes. Story 27. My health is more of a priority now than it was in my 20s. I'm 34 now, and I had to learn the hard way of living no consequences in my 20s with multiple surgeries. I also was more of an unstable job seeker, but now I prioritize my happiness and not just go where the wind blows me. I leave those tough times behind and say that tomorrow is a clean slate and make the best of it. Story 2830s hit me like a brick wall. Cons: food stops metabolizing, hair leaves, increased soreness after physical activities, decreased energy to engage in physical activities, increased dependence on adequate sleep. People don't give you the benefit of the doubt for stupid decisions. Pros: increased awareness of consequences has greatly improved my discernment. Better at cooking. Employment has stabilized. Hopefully some increase in self-awareness. Will reflect and report back in 10 years. No change. Desire to have fun and enjoy my life. Overall report. Aging sucks, but everyone in the world does it if they're lucky enough. Story 29. Your body loves throwing you new curveballs and reminding you of reality, and you're not invincible. Other than that, the ability to not give a shit about other people's opinions, and I feel like I know myself better and are more comfortable with being me. Story 30. Outside of the physical, I remember there being more political discourse in my 20s. I enjoyed getting into debates because at the time people were still debating. I enjoyed hearing perspectives from the other side, not because it changed my mind, but because I'd have a clearer picture as to where they're coming from. In my 30s, there is none of that, just arguing. Story 31 depends on if you've changed anything. Typically, people assume their 30s will be very different just because it's a new decade, but I think it has more to do with changing conditions. It is common for people to get married and buy homes in their 30s and have children, though increasingly less common. So a slower lifestyle is more likely in your 30s. With that comes more responsibility and less free time. It usually forces people to get their shit together, but not always. Story 32. Mental health is a lot better in my 30s than in my 20s. I have more knowledge on the things I enjoy like cooking and gaming. I still have great hair, which my younger self would be happy to hear. Better at noticing red flags in relationships, and better at being a loving partner. Dating is definitely harder now that I've become selective. I haven't learnt my favorite Ghibli songs on piano yet, so might be a 40s thing.